What's good, everybody? It's your boy back. Damn lines and show it back up. No, they went away. Well, back with another reaction video. I'll be reacting to 3 disturbing real food delivery horror stories. Thought this would be, relevant for especially for the times now. I think I've had food delivered to me more in the past 2 weeks than I've ever had in my entire life, because normally I don't like get my food delivered. I like to go get it, and that way, because I'm like, I don't need to, pay delivery fees and tip and drivers and stuff like that when I can just go get it myself. So, but yeah, I was like, and it was recommended. This was recommended for me, so. But it's been on my computer for, I think it's like a week, maybe more. Anyway, let's get into this, like 15 minutes long. So, all right, here we go.
I work as an Uber Eats driver at night to make a little extra cash. Friday and Saturday nights are always the busiest because everyone's either home or with friends and ordering food. So those were usually the nights I would work. I got a request on a Saturday night at 1 a.m. to pick up McDonald's for a guy named Kyle. He lived a few minutes away from my current position. So I punched in the nearest McDonald's, which was like a 2-minute drive away, and picked up his order. It was a small order. I think he only wanted 2 hamburgers. He lived like 5 to 7 minutes away from the McDonald's. I followed the app's directions to the house, and eventually it led me to a short dead-end street that veered off another dead-end street. The house was the last one on this dead-end road. It sat right next to a line of trees that ran alongside a highway that was pretty much dead at this hour. Given how late of an hour it was, I didn't want to ring the bell. I called this guy's number. It rang once, then went to voicemail.
Like they down south somewhere with
then I got a text
the way
from
this road
he told me to
looks
come
and
to the
the
door,
street lights.
so I did.
Except the houses will
Got
be
to the
even
big wooden
further
front porch
apart.
of the house, and soon the front door opened. A bald guy opened the door, only he didn't look very old. He looked to be in his 30s, yet his head was completely bald.
Yes, that
I
happens.
just liked that look, so I didn't judge.
Or some people
However, his
bald
breath was
early.
disgusting, and he seemed to be quite drunk, so that was a little off-putting. The payments were done through the app, so usually there was no need to wait around for money. But this time, this Kyle guy asked me to come put the pizza on his kitchen table while he ran to fetch a tip. I didn't object to free money, so I waited in his kitchen, which by the way was only lit up by a small outlet-sized nightlight, so it was pretty dim in there. The whole kitchen smelled rather disgusting though. I didn't know what it was. Kyle was taking awfully long
Probably
in the
rat
basement
shit.
fetching this tip, so I
The
started to walk.
basement.
I stepped into the living room, which was adjacent to the kitchen. The TV was on in there, which was the only reason I could see anything. However, the stench was even greater in this room. Then I noticed that the back door was slid half open. Maybe he was airing out whatever that putrid odor was. For the hell of it, I walked to the back door, expecting to get a quick breath of fresh air, but the smell only got worse. Then, finally, I stepped outside onto the man's back deck. I heard flies. The sound of a swarm of flies right by the door. Then, I guess a motion-sensing light saw my movement and turned on, revealing 2 big black garbage bags stuffed with 2 long objects. The smell was unbearable, too. It took me a second to catch on to what I was most likely looking at. Suddenly, waiting around for the tip didn't seem like a good idea anymore. I went back inside and rushed to the front door, and just then I heard Kyle emerge from the basement calling to me, waving a few singles in his hand.
Oh, he's actually going to get a
He
tip.
saw me as I was about to open the door and asked where I was going. I had to come up with something, so I said I was just rushing to check if I had something in my car. He said, "Oh, okay," as he came over to me and handed me the bills. Then he turned to the back door, to the porch, where the light was still on. Then he looked back at me, with his gummy smile
like,
now disappearing.
Did
He asked me in
you
a firm voice if I
see
went
the
to his
bags?
I told him no, and he just stared at me, not not saying
I'd
anything.
been like, nah, the light turned on, like it scared
I
me.
opened the door and walked myself out, but not without him grabbing my shoulder as I got onto the stoop. I yanked his hand off my shoulder and ran to my car. I saw him run back inside with the front door still open. I turned my car on, but I sat and watched his front door, curious to see if he'd come back out, and he did. He came back out, running full speed for my car with a big metal rod in his hand.
Oh shit.
I drove away from his house, ready to call the police and report him. I called when I got down the block, making sure to leave him no time to dispose of those potentially dead bodies. I waited down the block and saw police cars pull up literally within 2 minutes. I watched the whole thing as I told police where to go. In fact, Kyle, if that's his real name, had already started moving the bags, which did contain dead bodies, to the bushes in his backyard. Everything about this guy was off.
Idiot.
For leaving the back door open to reveal dead bodies to a pizza delivery boy, he may have been deranged, but he also wasn't the smartest man around.
Yeah, that was pretty stupid. Like, why is his house? Was he cutting them up in the house?
I deliver food for an Asian eatery in my town. It's the best gig I could get at my age,
What?
simply for the tips alone.
Since
My friend and I work there together.
1973.
We're actually the only two who are an Asian. My friend usually works the counter and takes phone calls. I usually do deliveries, and that's the way I like it. My friend got off the phone during one night shift we had together and told me I'd be doing a delivery. After the food was prepared, I was handed a brown paper bag and I was off on my way. The address I was given led me to some small dirt driveway off the main road, onto an enclosed property. Don't picture it as some luxurious private property, though. It was some old, unkempt excuse of a property. And the house seemed to be closed off, given that there wasn't a single light on in there, and how high the grass was. I called my friend back at the restaurant, and he gave the phone to our boss. Unfortunately, our boss is a stinge, so he yelled at me in his thick Asian accent to knock on the door and don't waste the food. I got out from my car, felt grass rubbing against my shins. That's how tall it was. I went up the 3 stairs to the front door and knocked really loud since there didn't seem to be a doorknob. As I expected, after 30 seconds of waiting, there was no answer. So I got back in my car, and first thing I did was start texting my friend back at the restaurant. But when I looked up back to the house, this time one of the upstairs lights inside of the house was turned on. So I went back to the door and knocked once again. Only on the first knock, the door pushed open slightly. Someone had opened the door, but there was nobody standing next to the door. I pushed the door open a little more and called out hello. My voice echoed through the empty house. I was waiting to hear footsteps come to the door. They never did. Obviously, someone had to have opened the door, so if they weren't
Don't
gonna come
go
to the
in
door,
the house.
I had to assume they wanted me to come in. I stepped into the house.
I had to assume they wanted me to come in. Stop
called out one
assuming
more
shit.
time. This time someone replied back. I heard the words aquí arriba. Now, I'm not fluent in Spanish by any means, but I knew that aquí meant here, and I knew arriba meant above, so I put 2 and 2 together and figured they said up here. There was a stairway in the middle of the hallway, so I walked over to it and stopped at the bottom step. I looked up the stairs, and all I saw at the top was an arm reached out over the ledge, doing a little stiff come here motion. I used what little Spanish skills I'd gained from middle school and said something like Tango tu comida as I walked up the stairs.
No habla en inglés.
The arm
Or
wasn't there.
español, I mean.
I got to the top, looking for whoever was just standing by the ledge over the stairs. And I noticed through the tiniest amount of light that the person was now inside a bedroom with the lights off. But I didn't see the actual person. Once again, all I saw was the person's arm, doing that same come here motion.
It's a dead arm.
It's as if anything above the person's elbow was faded to black in that room. It was such an eerie sight. I knew for certain I wasn't going in that room, though. So I said firmly with confidence, "Buddy, I'm not going in there. You come out here with money or I leave." Suddenly, the arm pulled away into the darkness of the room ahead of me, and after a few seconds of standing there in silence, I was hit by a flying object. It happened so fast that it took me a few moments to realize I'd just been hit with a stiff, severed arm. It wasn't some plastic Halloween toy, it was a real arm. I ran down the stairs with the food still in my hand and got back to my car.
The food.
I didn't even call my friend or my boss. I drove straight to the nearest neighboring house and rang that person's doorbell. When they answered, I told them about what their neighbor had just done to me. The woman had the most puzzled look on
So
her
no
face.
one lives there.
She said nobody's lived in that house for a year. I felt my stomach drop when those words hit me. She said she would call the police after we talked about it for a good 5 minutes. Then I went on my way back to the restaurant with the food.
Why didn't you call the police?
I explained the best I could to my boss, and he let it go. I sometimes wonder how things would have played out if I went into that room.
You'd be dead.
And who or
That
what
arm, that severed arm, been shoved up your ass. Story 3.
I used to work at Domino's. They close at 3 a.m. on weekends, and being that I was taking an off year during college at the time of the story, my boss took advantage of that and always threw me on the 9 to 3 a.m. shifts.
Ooh.
There would always be at least 3 people working that late.
Well,
one to cook the pizzas, one to take orders,
not that
and one
bad.
to do any needed deliveries.
9 to 3
This
a.m.
night,
at
the one
Domino's?
cooking the pizzas was Jeff, a
I
28-year-old
don't think I ever seen a
Italian guy who
Domino's
works
open
2 jobs.
past.
He was always in a bad mood,
11
so when he told me
or
to deliver
12.
something, I did it without complaints. So, being a Saturday night, it wasn't uncommon to get calls for deliveries past 2 a.m. Around 2:30, I was told to deliver 2 pizzas to an address that I still vaguely remember. 27 Crocker Drive, or something close to that. I took my stupid, beat-up 2002 Honda Civic off the road for 5 minutes. The only main road that cuts
27 Cracker Drive.
I live in the Manchester Township area in Jersey, containing a whole lot of nothing but trees everywhere. My drive there was a dark one. After merging off the main road onto smaller roads with no streetlights, the only light that could be seen for miles were my headlights. I turned off the public road onto a dirt road with a private property sign posted outside. It seemed I had arrived to the house I was delivering to, and suddenly I heard a bang reverberating through my car, followed by a weakened sense of handling of my car, as well as a repeating flopping sound.
Flat tire.
I knew for certain I just got a flat tire. I stopped the car at once and got out to confirm. The front right tire was completely flat. I could see through the headlights that the house was walking
passenger
distance from
side,
my car.
front passenger side tire.
So instead of calling my insurance company, it would make more sense to deliver the pizza and also ask that person for help. I got to the deck of the house. It was an average size house.
Ask them for
completely
help. Do you
enclosed
have a
by trees,
spare?
as were most of the houses around here. The lights were on inside, but all the blinds were shut. I rang the bell, and quickly a normal-looking young man answered the door. Before exchanging the pizzas,
And the ones you gotta look out for,
I
the
told man
normal
about the
looking
predicament I just
motherfuckers.
found myself in. A look of concern came over his face as he handed me the money and I handed him the pizzas. He came outside to take a look at my car with me. It was a 30-second walk from the house. We got to my car, and he started analyzing the tire. He said he could help me. He'd just need his tools from inside. I started questioning what I could have hit on his dirt driveway, and he yelled out to me, "Don't worry about it," as I was walking down his road. I walked a bit further, kind of
Don't
ignoring
worry
him,
about it.
and I noticed a spike strip in the road. A very small one, but undoubtedly what I hit. I couldn't see any other reason for that to be there, other than him putting it there deliberately. I started thinking over the possibilities of what could be going down, so I pretended I didn't see the spike strip and walked back saying I didn't find anything. He looked at me.
He
I was
like,
worried he might have been suspicious.
I know you saw that spike
But then he
strip.
turned away and said he was going inside to get some tools. God only knows what he meant by tools. I waited for him
Tools
to
to
get to his front
chop
door
up a
before
human
I got back
body.
to my car, turned the car on, and threw it in reverse. I was not sticking around there to find out what he was doing. I heard the flat tire wobble on the dirt road as my car slowly rolled in reverse. I made a point of avoiding the spike strip this time. As my car pulled out of the private dirt road onto the concrete road, I took one last look down the man's driveway to make sure he wasn't following me, then I took off. I couldn't drive too fast though and risk of damaging my wheel. I stayed at a steady 10 to 15 miles per hour.
Oh, I bet that is.
I looked in my rearview mirror and saw something behind my car. The man running after my car. I had no choice but to step on it, forcing me to cringe as I could literally feel the damage being done to my wheel. The distance between my car and the man got greater until he was out of sight. After turning back onto the one main road that I'd mentioned earlier, I slowed down the speed a little bit, back to 10 to 15. It was a long ride back, about 20 minutes since I had to drive slow. When I got back, the place would be closing in 10 minutes, but I had to return the Domino's sign that they make us put on our cars when doing deliveries. Jeff was upset with me that I took so long, until I told him the whole story. The woman who was also working the same shift as us listened in with a look of shock on her face the whole time. When time came to close, Jeff told me I should just drive home slow since I live like down the block, and that I should take care of it tomorrow. The two went off to their cars and drove away. I sat in my car for a little
And
bit.
the guy was there.
Eventually, I turned my car on and started my slow drive back to my house. I noticed, however, that a car without its lights on was following close behind me for a while. So I pulled over in front of some small house to see if they would do the same.
They did.
The car passed me, but then pulled over on the same side of the street a little further down. I started to panic, knowing it had to be the man, who figured that he'd find me at the Domino's that he ordered from. I couldn't lead him to my house, so even though I didn't know for certain if it was him, I had to be overly paranoid and call the cops. I had police come to my exact location for fear of being followed. After 5 to 10 minutes of waiting, a cop car slowly rolled down the street and I beeped my horn to stop him. He stopped in reverse so that his windows were lined up with mine, and then we both rolled them down. I pointed at the car in front of me with its lights off, sitting a little further in front of me. But just then, that car zoomed out from its parked position, lights still off, instantly disappearing down the road into the night. The cop put his lights on and sped after him without saying a word. I didn't know if he wanted me to follow him, but I couldn't with my tire, so I drove home as quick as I could and parked my car in the driveway. I still don't know if that cop caught that driver. Somehow I doubt it, but I like to imagine he did. Either way, I always made sure to watch my back every time I drove home after that night, and I quit that job 2 months later.
That's kind of spooky. The car following you, got his lights off. He's about to do some horrible things to you, boy. Like, and this dude was really like obsessed with this guy. Like, he's like he chose him. Like, you ran over that spike strip. I'm about to carve your ass up. And the dude gets away. He's running down the road after this guy. I mean, he didn't have to really speed, or he could still went 10 to 15. I mean, the guy's a human. He would eventually tire it out. Going 10, 15 miles an hour. He eventually got tired. Trying to keep up with him. But then this guy's followed him with his lights off and then wait. Like, this dude is persistent and a homicidal maniac. Like, anything he had planned could not have been good. It'd be funny though. He was gets his house. He like, hey man, I was just trying to give you a tip. So it's like you chased me down on foot, trying to give me a tip. Like what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, but that was scary. It's always like I love now. I love the contactless delivery. I hope they keep doing that, even after this whole pandemic thing. Like, I hope they keep doing the contactless, because I enjoy that so much. If somebody just leave it to the front door and drive off. Except this is the last time I got something. This guy didn't leave it at the front door. Well, it was because I got some wings from Wingstop, and they use DoorDash, so I didn't have the actual app. They used it, and the guy comes up to the door. He didn't leave it, like I said. Rings the door, but he's still standing. What the fuck? So I open the door, and he hands me the stuff, and then he asked me if I can give him 5 stars, and I was just like, and I wasn't sure. Like, I said, yeah, I could do it, and I went and looked to see if I could do it, and I couldn't do it on their website. I did put, because they sent me a text saying, how did you like, the service, delivery, and all this stuff and everything, and the food and everything fine. And they said put like, they had 1 through 5, 5 being the best, 1 being like poor or whatever, and I put 5. And oh, thank you. So maybe they'll do it. I was like, I don't have the app, so I was thinking, I don't know, I can't do it. I even thought about trying to download it. I said, but then I couldn't give that guy, because I'm sure you can't look up drivers like that. So, but yeah, I was like, what the fuck? I said contact, and plus the thing, it says on the website like they only do contactless. Like Domino's now only does contactless deliveries. I think I looked at some other stuff. They said they only do contactless, which I think Burger King said they do it. Only doing contactless. McDonald's only doing. If you do delivery, you only do contactless. Like so I was like when he was standing, I was like, the fuck, like, dude, I put on the lead of food. Like, I guess he wanted to ask me to put 5 stars on things. I'm like, I told you, and you don't even got a mask on. You just walk up to my, and that's what, cause I looked out and I went and put I had a mask, so I went and put a mask on, one of my masks that I got, and he handed me the stuff. I was like, you don't listen. It's like everything I shouldn't give you a 5 because you don't listen. But anywho, hope you enjoyed my reaction. And if you did, make sure that thumbs up button below. Be sure to subscribe if you're new, hit the bell. You want to be notified when I upload new videos. Share this video, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.